Alright, good morning everybody, this is the Iceman here. Last night I watched 1997 WCW Censored with my nephew Matt, and I have to tell you this, I didn't remember this pay-per-view too well. Uncensored, as everybody knows, that if any kind of wrestling fan knows, that it was in March of every year. And it was from like 95 to 2000 for WCW. But like I said, I didn't remember too much about this pay-per-view. But going and watching it last night, every single match, they gave it a lot of time for all the matches, and all the matches were great. Now I can't remember, off the top of my head of all the matches, but the pay-per-view pretty much opened up with United States Championship. Eddie Guerrero was holding the United States title, and he went up against Dean Malenko. Everybody knows Malenko. He was the man of 1,000 moves. Of course, back then, these two guys were like totally awesome. And this match went on for quite some time, and both had opportunities to defeat each other on numerous different occasions. And it wasn't until Six came out with the camera. The camera inadvertently got thrown into the ring, and to everybody's surprise, Dean Malenko used the video camera and hit Eddie Guerrero over the head and ended up getting the pin to become the new United States champion. But this match was totally awesome. There was just a lot of good stuff going on, and if anybody knows anything about wrestling, and you remember Bobby Heenan as a manager, and more importantly to me, Bobby Heenan was a great commentator for WCW when he worked with Tony Schiavone, because they worked very well together. Heenan was the guy who cracked the jokes, made the wisecracks, and Tony Schiavone was like the diligent guy telling him to shut up and calling him weasel and whatnot. But it was a great show. Also, we saw on the show Psychosis go up against the Ultimo Dragon along with Sonny Ono. Again, another great match, and this match also was given a lot of time, and with a little help from Sonny Ono, the Ultimo Dragon ended up beating Psychosis. But watching these brought back a lot of memories, and how great the talent was in WCW back in those days. And like I said, the whole pay-per-view was totally awesome. I'm gonna flip through a little bit. There was a tag team match with the Harlem Heat along with Sherry Martel. They went up against Public Enemy. I don't know if anybody remembers Public Enemy very well. Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge. This was a tornado match, and this was, it's like a hardcore match where you can use weapons and whatnot, and this was an excellent match as well. There was a spot where Rocco Rock and Grunge both took it to Stevie Ray, and they all three went through a table on the outside of the ring, and it was just like you had to really watch it to really enjoy this pay-per-view. The Harlem Heat, by the way, ended up coming on top of this match with a little bit of help with Sherry Martel, but just a real good match. Yeah, we got birds in the background here. Also, Rey Mysterio, a very young Rey Mysterio, went up against the TV champion Prince Iaukea in a match that went on for quite some time. Actually, the time limit ended up ending this match. Rey had whined about it to the referee, and the referee went to Prince Iaukea. Prince Iaukea pretty much agreed that Rey was deserving to get more time, so they continued on the match. And to anybody's surprise, you would have thought that Rey Mysterio would have came out on top of this match, but Prince Iaukea ended up defeating Mysterio and retaining the television belt. Now, if watching these pay-per-views back then, with all the belts they had on the line and whatnot, belts were really important back in the 90s with WCW. The TV title I remember watching when I used to watch Nitro on Monday nights or Thunder on Thursdays, that the television title was always on the line on a weekly basis. And this is back when belts really meant something, where we don't see a lot of that in a lot of wrestling today. But yeah, it was just tremendous, and there was some great segments as well. There was a segment with the Macho Man Randy Savage along with Elizabeth donning his NWO gear, and he came out and he was going after DDP verbally, and he opened up a magazine which had shown a naked Kimberly Page, which he had sprayed NWO across the body, so he sort of cut out, the body parts of Kimberly Page, and she had come out, and you could see that she was spray painted in black as well, and it was just such a great segment. Even Kimberly, trying to help her husband DDP at the time, Miss Elizabeth ended up spray painting NWO on the back of Kimberly. But it was such a great segment. I mean, they did such a great job back then. And the main event, of course, was a three-way match. It was the WCW against Piper's team against the NWO team, and for the WCW team, it was supposed to be Rick and Scott Steiner, Lex Luger, and the Giant. But previously, Rick Steiner was chased down by the NWO in their vehicles, and he had flipped his car, but miraculously was back to be on this pay-per-view. But early on in the pay-per-view, they had a segment where, there was a body laid out, and it was Rick Steiner, and he was taken to the hospital. So WCW was one man short. So you only had Luger, Scott Steiner, and this was the old look Scott Steiner with the long hair and whatnot, and the Giant, of course, the Giant with the long hair as well, going up against Piper's team, who was Roddy Piper. It was the long-haired Chris Benoit, excuse me. Yeah, the long-haired Chris Benoit, the long-haired Jeff Jarrett, and the other member was Mongo McMichaels. So they were going up against also the NWO, which consisted of Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hollywood Hogan, and the Macho Man Randy Savage. So, you had three teams, and it was a stipulation to this where, a member came out, and then after a minute, another member came out, and then it got cut down to like so many seconds and whatnot. And of course, the last person standing in the ring was the champion, and there were stipulations where the NWO could have lost all their titles if they did not win, at the very end and whatnot. It was an interesting stipulation, but in any event, it got down to the point where it was just Lex Luger against NWO, and Lex Luger was getting beat up, and then all of a sudden he came to life, went to town, got rid of Scott Hall, got rid of Kevin Nash, got rid of Macho Man, and it was just Luger and Hulk Hogan in the ring. And Dennis Rodman, the former NBA player, was outside the ring, and he had snuck the spray paint can to Hulk Hogan, and eventually Hogan ended up winning the match. But after the match was over, you had all the NWO members come into the ring there with Lex Luger, and they were sort of like beating down on Luger, and then out of nowhere, from the rafters came the Crow Sting. We haven't seen Sting since October of 1996 when he left with the blonde, spiked hair, face painted look, and he came back with the Crow look. And he came down on a cable with his baseball bat, and he took everybody out. And this is pretty much what ended the show, and it was just, the show from very beginning to very end was so great. It just brought back so many memories of, you know, how really good WCW really was back in those days. And to see a pay-per-view from beginning to end have so many great matches, and all the matches being given a lot of time, you know, it's very rare to see nowadays. So, you know, I really enjoyed this match. Matt and I just relived, you know, the past. I'm sure Matt probably saw it when it aired live, when I actually ordered the pay-per-view, but he was such a little kid he didn't remember it. But yeah, it was just a great show. If you ever get a chance to watch the original pay-per-view of Uncensored 1997 with the commentary of Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Dusty Rhodes, and on a few matches, Mike Tenay. I think if you watch it, you'll really enjoy it, because it will definitely not disappoint you. So this is the Iceman here on this Wednesday. I'm out in Portland. I'll be headed home later on this afternoon. Peace out, everybody. Have yourself a great day. See y'all next time.